Hey guys, Bailey here, and today I'm going to be talking about some thru-hike planning, specifically how I'm training to thru-hike the CDT this year, and some considerations that you might have if you are training for a thru-hike too. So I've completed several shorter thru-hikes with various levels of training, one in which I was working a manual labor job and doing a lot of training at altitude and stuff. Another where I was kind of like middle of the road in shape, another where I was definitely not in shape at all. So I just kind of want to talk about my experiences and thoughts on this topic. Of course, again, this is my experience, and what works for me might not work for everyone, especially, if you're a different fitness level, age, that kind of thing. So do keep that in mind as well. So the first major thing I want to talk about is whether to train or not to train. So this can be kind of like a contentious topic. I see a lot of people really going at it with the training on like Facebook and stuff, which is great. But I do want to say for me, sometimes it's okay to not train. So, life is busy. If you don't have big goals like an FKT or something like that, you don't always have to spend a million years training. Like, believe me, take it from experience. It gets really hectic and busy right before you leave for a thru-hike, especially if you're trying to, finish up or wrap up your job or get ready to take leave. If you are packing up, like I've moved every single time I've done a thru-hike, so that gets really busy, and it's hard to get out there and hike every day. Like right now I'm able to walk, but I was just talking to a friend, and it takes like 2 hours out of your day or more depending on what kind of training you're doing. And that can be kind of stressful to get out there. Or maybe you live a place where it's hard to train for the kind of hiking you're going to be doing. So when I lived in Kansas, it was a challenge for me to get back to Colorado to train for the Colorado Trail thru-hike that I did. Also, sometimes it can be better to maybe not train as much. Since I hike with my dogs, I want to ensure that we are at the same fitness level when we leave. So I don't want to be like way more in shape than they are, because that's basically what happened on the Colorado Trail, or one of the things that happened is that I was way more in shape because of my job than they were, and so I was ready to do these big miles and they just weren't quite ready to keep up. So you do want to maybe keep that in mind too if you're planning on hiking with your dogs. If you are not really interested in training or able to train, then the good news is you can just start slow. So that's where I'm saying if you're not playing FKT or don't have like a deadline, then it's okay. So for me, like last year, I just planned to start slower mileage wise and work my way up. You do have to know that you're going to be kind of sucking air that first week, or it might be a bit rough, right, or less comfortable, because your body is going to be adjusting a lot more than someone who's in better shape. But just keep that in mind. Usually for me, with like an average fitness level, the first week is a little bit rough and painful. By the second week, you're starting to feel better. And then by the third week of walking every day, you tend to just feel just fine. So it just takes a little bit longer. And especially if you're doing something really long, like the AT or like the CDT this year, you're going to be on the trail for 6 months. There's no big rush to be getting in shape because you're going to be out there for a long time. That's pretty small in the grand scheme of things. And that's not to say that training is bad. If you're super into it, then go for it. Like, I've been working hard to train with my dogs. We were walking 6 miles a day right now, so that's good too. I've heard of some people that have been going out and hiking like miles and miles every week, going on big trail runs, and that's awesome because that just means they're going to be that much more comfortable. Again, maybe you have to get back to work on a certain date or have like a wedding or something, then it's really good to be in shape, and you'll definitely enjoy the first week a lot more. So there's nothing wrong with that either. I really enjoyed how I felt when I was able to do like over 20 miles right up at the gate on the Colorado Trail. That was definitely a lot better than questioning life choices hiking up a really steep trail last year on the San Luis Loop the first day. The other thing with being in better shape is that does kind of reduce your chances of injury. So do keep that in mind. And again, it kind of goes back to your fitness level and that kind of thing. But that is something that I do keep in mind, is if you are not going to start doing a lot of training before you hike, then you definitely want to start slow and really listen to your body and don't push. And then last thing is, if you have dogs, then you definitely need to train them. So find a way. It's mostly their feet. Like in my case, I'm more concerned about training my dog's feet, but their body too. That's not fair to take them out and drag them out. And definitely plan to start slow even if you are doing training, and listen to them. So the next thing to talk about is how to train. So my personal opinion is that the saying, the best way to get in shape for hiking is to hike, is definitely pretty accurate. So that has kind of been my go-to the last couple years, is just to do a lot of hiking, and it's worked out okay. Before I did the Colorado Trail, I would go hike every week, which I normally do anyways, and then I'd also go do a big hike in Colorado at least once a month. I did a couple 14ers, and I think that really made a big difference. Of course, I also was getting exercise from moving branches around, that kind of thing at the zoo, but I guess just well balanced. I would say that, of course, like, you want to make sure that you're focusing on things that will help you on the trail. Like, for example, I came back from the Colorado Trail being in really good shape, and I had a really hard time riding a bike up a hill just because it wasn't the same kind of muscles and the same kind of exercise. And so that's, I think, a reason to keep in mind that hiking and walking is going to be a really good way to help keep you in shape, because that's what you're going to be doing every day. Personally, I really hate going to the gym. Like, I absolutely 100% refuse to do any sort of like regular workout routines like push-ups or anything like that. So this is also just personal preference for me, and it could be for you as well, that I would rather find time in my day to go walk 6 miles than I would sit in my house and do planks and stuff. So also keep that in mind. And again, it's just like, besides it being a personal choice, it's what's going to work best for you. If you've had a previous injury, perhaps, or you're older and you think you need more, then keep that in mind too, that extra strength training might be helpful for you. So for some people, you might prefer having like a specific workout routine, and that might be because, say, you have a time crunch, you're not able to like spend 4 hours a day walking or 2 hours a day walking or whatever, then going to the gym or doing like a focused routine might be helpful, just because it limits the amount of time you're spending every day exercising. And again, you can work on like strengthening specific areas of your body and that kind of thing. So yeah, there's pros and cons to both for sure. So some other considerations that you might want to think about when you're training include like the climate. So if you are from somewhere that is pretty humid and you're going to be hiking the PCT and starting out in the desert, then you might want to keep in mind that's going to be pretty different for your body, and it might be a bit of an adjustment at first. Everything's pretty dry, that kind of thing. Conversely, the same is true if you're from someplace that's really dry, like Colorado, and going to go do the AT, then that would also be a big adjustment because it's much more humid out there. Another thing I found that usually requires some training is your feet. So if you are doing like more gym workouts and stuff, then you might want to consider training, walking and stuff too, especially with the pack, because your feet will need to be broken in and get used to walking too, along with your ankles. And the other thing with that I kind of realized this weekend when I went on my shakedown hike was that my whole body needed to get used to wearing a pack again. So like my shoulders, my hips, those kinds of things. Every year when I start wearing backpacks again, I notice that that's kind of an adjustment for my body to get used to. And it does in a few days, and a day or two, but that's something that you might want to consider training for too, and make sure that you are not going to be taken by surprise by that. And then, of course, if you're coming from somewhere that's low altitude, we'll be hiking at altitude. That can be difficult to train for, but do your best. If you want to know more about getting used to altitude, then definitely check out my video on that topic. Next, we'll go through like things to consider as far as altitude sickness, what it is, and that kind of thing. So that's all I have for today, and I'll see you guys over at that next video.